My story of finding me. After two divorces, um, I'm coming to a place where I'm realizing that experience um, or lack of experience will shape your reality and how it shaped my reality. I grew up in a very big family and in an environment that didn't really teach me the the steps or the necessary things that I needed to know on how to make a relationship work and to make it worse. By the age of 7, my father was already divorcing my mom. So my experience with intimate relationships came in a very perverted way. And I believe that it is a lot of why I'm 44 years old and divorced twice at this point. My very first experience in an intimate setting, I probably was 3 years old, and I was being routinely molested by a child, a young man that was not much older than I was. Um, and along the way, there were other incidents of being molested by other people. But I believe that that particular situation, because it went from the age of 3 probably till I was 12, that particular person would uh, molest me over the years. I believe that that was the water on the rock type situation where it didn't seem like it was as bad as an older person or a grown person that would molest a child. But I think it was that did the most damage because it weakened my defenses and it tainted my reality of what real intimacy should look like. So fast forwarding into um, my adolescence and even early adulthood, those encounters that I had experienced in my childhood, it caused me to realize that being molested, A, was wrong, not to realize that it was wrong, but also that when I was raped, which I was raped when I was 17, that it wasn't even like it was a crime. It just kind of like, I told him no, and this was a boyfriend that I had slept with before, but it wasn't even a violation because I had been molested for so long. So my mentality towards intimate relationships became so warped that I didn't realize the impact that it had or what would one day have on me. And not to mention the fact that nobody was sitting down telling me, hey, Salome, this is how you be in a relationship. This is how you're supposed to be treated. These are the nuances. I mean, I knew that a man and woman should be married. I knew that that they would one day have children. I knew that they would live under the same house structure. I knew those things. I knew that they would work and be financially responsible to take care of a home. But the things of a relationship, of actually having the personal relationship, an intimate relationship, I didn't know that in the right ways, which led me to, again, unsuccessful marriage. When I met my first husband, I really, honestly, I had my first child already, and me and my son's father, we were not in a relationship. We just kind of had a situationship, if you will, and had a child. And I knew that I was taught that biblically that I was supposed to be married with a child, and those things were wrong. So I was looking for a way into the right side of life. So I prayed for a husband. And I wouldn't necessarily say that John was my husband was the answer to my prayer, but I would say that he was what I decided I was going to be with at that time. We had no plan. We had no plan. We had no focus. We were aimless in our relationship. We were together for some years. We had my daughter. We had a house. And we just decided one day, hey, let's get married. And that's what happened. Um, and I believe that, I believe in marriage, and I believe that marriage is a good thing. But I think that if we take a little bit more into consideration everything that it takes to really be successful in relationships, that we would do things a little bit different. And I wish I had asked more questions. I wish I would have realized that I couldn't um, be in a relationship with a person, or that I shouldn't be in a relationship with a person who didn't have me in the first in a position of he didn't put me first. I'm a loss for words a little bit. Be with somebody who didn't put me first, or even put me as a priority, and not because he's a bad person, but because he didn't know how to be in a relationship, and neither did I. I wish somebody would have told me that. I wish somebody would have told me that to do a little bit more homework, to kind of figure out, you know, where we were headed, because we had no direction. I had abandoned at that time religion, and he had none. So there were so many things already going wrong, but we made it through 11 years of marriage and 15 years in total being together. Um, but the problem with that, we barely made it. We forced ourselves to make it, and it deeply impacted our children in the most negative way, to see such a mismatch put together, and just not really themselves as children be happy in a home and in a situation like that. So I got lost in a world, and I really didn't have much. I didn't have nothing to help me get out of it. I asked my mom about marriage, but really, she really didn't have much to give me, because she didn't survive in her own marriage. And all the other marriages that were around me were so um, far. The ones that were present were distant, and the ones that I knew of before didn't make it. So I didn't get an education on what marriage is supposed to be like. I didn't even know what being a real friend was like. I don't even know if I knew what liking or loving myself was like, because there was so much of me that had already went wrong as I was growing. So at any rate, at the end of my first marriage, I got back into a relationship with God. And I started going to church, and I began to know that something was wrong. I can't really tell you that I knew what was right, but I knew what was wrong. And I knew that that my relationship was kind of in a bad place. You know, it got to be abusive, not in a physical way, but abusive in verbally. I heard this said by one person before, that the decision that you make for the person that you marry is so important, because that person will pour into you for the rest of your life. To be in a bad marriage for 15 years meant I got 15 years of negative download in me. I didn't realize on my way out of that how much that impact was still, how it was continuously impacting me over a period of time, and or even what it would take to get beyond that situation. I walked away. I was able to walk away. I was able to come out of that marriage, and I went through my first divorce but I was very broken beyond that because I didn't know. I had no foundation. I had no footing, and I kind of felt lost and alone and rejected, and all of those things that caused me to seek out and want to be in another relationship. Not that I was even ready to be in another relationship, but I wanted to be comforted. I wanted to feel some type of comfort. I had no idea. Um, I had no idea that I could even stand on my own 2 feet, even though I was standing on my own 2 feet. But I was just kind of lost in the hurt and the pain of everything that I had been through in that situation and in that relationship. Not because he was bad, not so much as because I was bad, because we were a bad fit, and we were a bad fit. A, we didn't fit each other, and B, we neither one of us really knew how to be married. You know, when I think about marriage now, my mind take it, I'm taken to such a different place of purpose behind the marriage because that wasn't even a focus. We were just kind of being together, and I think that a lot of people end up in a place in relationships where they just kind of aimlessly be together. So being as hurt as I was and not really learning a lesson behind the first marriage, um, but just wanting to find comfort after being so very hurt from my first marriage, um, I ended up very shortly afterwards in another marriage. Um, that was the worst. It was the worst. But that's where I began to learn. It was the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever witnessed, been a part of, felt, but it was where I began to start to figure some things or look for some answers. So I started studying marriage in the midst of this very bad marriage, in my second marriage, which I married again like 2 years. And the time frame is not the big deal, but when I say too soon, I mean because I wasn't healed. I hadn't gotten past my first hurt. I just kind of jumped in, just trying to pick up where I was dropped off because all I really knew was being married. So in my second marriage, when I woke up and I realized that I was married and I was in a but it was not in a good marriage and it was in a bad situation, I began to relentlessly research relationship. Um, and during this time, my relationship with the Lord got really strong because if you ask me on any given day, I'm going to tell you that if you want to learn anything about yourself or the people that's supposed to be in your life, go first to the one who made you because he knows who's supposed to be around you. So I began to research marriage. I bought books. First book I bought was talking about the love languages. Um, I always go back to the beginning and I would always reread Genesis because I feel like there's so much insight to in the beginning and God making man and woman and the purpose behind that. I did a lot of research. I even began my own personal Facebook um, conversation talk show, whatever you want to call it, um, in search of answers and receiving the revelation and really trying to give uh, a go at my marriage and work things out. And I grew. Um, I grew in a lot of ways, and I believe in the institution of marriage. What I understand, though, is that while anything can work, any relationship that come together can work if you have two willing parties. So one of the things that I encountered at the end of my marriage is that there was not two willing party. So it didn't matter how much research, how much information that I had. I found myself in the same position at the end to where I was facing another divorce, and it was devastating in a different kind of way because I feel like in this situation, when I realized, I tried to give my best when I realized. But I thank God because I believe that He delivered me from what could have been just a mess, a catastrophe. And I probably wouldn't have never been happy in that situation because of the way it began. Some things some homes can be remodeled and some just need to be demolished. And those were one of those type of situations that it needed to be demolished. So facing another divorce, there's a lot of things that I had to look at in facing another divorce. And the major thing that I had to look at that point was me. What was wrong with me? Why was I back in the same situation? Why was I divorced again? Why can't I make things work? What am I missing? What am I not getting? What am I missing? One of the first major things that I realized after the fact was my motives was never right for marriage. When I think about why I wanted to get married in the first marriage, I wanted a father for my son. I was looking for a rescue mission, or help, or But that was it. There was no other purpose. There was no aim. There was no other thought to the situation. I just wanted what I wanted, and that was for my son to have a father. In my second marriage, I was looking for to be married again, and not to be by myself. Um, Not to be by myself. I don't want to be alone. Who wants to be alone? And I believe that marriage was made for me. I believe I'm supposed to be married. But I believe that the motives behind it is so much greater than you just having somebody to go out to dinner with, or somebody to have sex with, or somebody to cuddle with, or somebody to be in your company. I believe that no good marriage, no marriage is going to work or be good if there is no purpose and direction. I can't help someone who don't have a vision, as far as a man. And I can't be help to a man if I'm um, just, I have a large collection of issues and hurt that I'm bringing into, and baggage that I'm bringing into a relationship. We're not ready. One of the biggest struggles that I still have to this day is allowing things to develop so that when I get to whatever it is that God has for me next, that I'm ready. A lot of times we just want to hurry up and get to the next thing instead of being developed. So where I am today is causing me to be in a place where not only I am learning more about who I am as a person, Salome, where my value is, and what I have to offer to the world. Or however I'm dispersed. But also what I would bring to the table in a marriage in the first place at this point. But most importantly, how I can just go through this process and actually enjoy the journey of learning, and enjoy the journey along the way, the people that I meet, the things that I learn, researching this information, finding out what it really takes to be in a marriage, and looking at the different nuances, the things that I never looked at before, and applying them. having realistic expectations of people, understanding that a person can only give you who they really are, and really exploring those things and actually taking the time to explore them in the first place, in the beginning, learning how to that marriage and a relationship is so much more than just sex. It's so much more than a date. It's you're joining lives with a person for a purpose to go somewhere. And I know that everybody that gets married don't have the same intention. I know that everybody that gets married don't have the same, um, goal, um, as far as biblically. But I can only speak from what I know works, and I know that if we're not doing it from the standpoint of who created it, then we're in jeopardy always of losing it. So now I'm in a place where um, I know that God is developing me to be whoever I'm supposed to be, not just in the next marriage, but just in this life period, in this next segment of my life. There is a place that I walk through often, maybe not every day, but every other day, that I visit those things that were dysfunctional in my life, and facing those things and those pains, because I don't want to continue to carry them into the next phase of life. I don't want to keep continuing to carry those things. So one of the things that I look at, or that I consider, is um, facing those things that has hurt me, facing um, the dealing with the sexual abuse that I've endured, dealing with the dysfunctions that came along in my life, dealing with the broken home, my dad leaving, and those things that for some reason I feel it causes some type of blinding force that happens, or layer over your eyes, that you don't pay attention, that because you want the fulfillment so bad from what you've lacked in your life, that we miss the greater picture of moving forward, the fears, and those are the things that I'm learning to face every day, so that I'm growing from my past mistakes, and I'm not going back into the same places. If I could talk to my younger self, before I even started getting married, started as an adult and dealing with marriage or whatever, I would have told myself to pay attention. I probably would have told myself to um, don't have sex right away. Wait, because once you do that, you kind of put a blinder. It's like a blinder goes on, and then you don't see that person anymore. I would probably tell a younger myself to pay attention to the family history and the family dynamic and the culture, the previous culture before me, or the previous culture of that family, or the current culture of that family. Just the different little nuances that you don't even think about, when you do get married to a person. I would have told myself, are you and your husband, or soon to be husband, going in the same direction in thought, in theory, in actions, in anything? Do you have the same goals? And I know it probably sounds really textbook, but a part of finding me today in this, and right where I am today, is knowing that the person that I spend the rest of my life with, I want us to be on the same page. There has to be a oneness, and I know that you cannot become one if you don't walk the same walk. So I think about those things moving forward, and I know that I'm worth the wait. So, anybody who can't, go through those type of processes with me really don't deserve my time, you know. But that's not hard for me anymore because I think my head hit the wall this last time so hard that I'll wait. I'm Salome. Thank you for watching my story of finding